Bendecito Capote, and we're back with more Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. We're back with another deck profile that we're doing today. This is a deck that I actually really like. It's one of the decks that I built on release because I thought it's what we're doing today. If you haven't looked at the title, is Dinomorphia. Now, Dinomorphia. The reason I built this deck is because they're flipping Power Rangers, man. They're literally Power Rangers, and I actually pulled this, which was really cool. Not like a few weeks ago, after I built the deck, so I had an extra copy, but it was pretty cool. Anyway, we're doing Dinomorphia, so this is the long version of the deck profile, which if you've seen my channel in the past few weeks when I started doing Yu-Gi-Oh, then you'll know that I do a long version that explains all my card choices and everything, and a short version, which if you just want to see ratios, if you just want to see whatever, I do it really quickly and I do it afterwards. I upload them on the same day, so I'll put the link in the description below. But for now, we're doing this because this is a fun deck. Anyway, so let's get started with the card choices. So first of all, 3 Dinomorphia Theresia. Now what this card does is if this card is normal or special summoned, you can set 1 Dinomorphia trap directly from your deck into your spell trap card zone. Then if your life points are 2,000 or less, it gains 500 attack. And if it's destroyed, you can summon a Dinomorphia, one level 4 lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard, which right now is only Diplos, but yeah, good card. I don't know why the hell that's my camera just went dark or like for some reason, but anyway, Theresia. The reason you play 3 of her is because it gets you into all of your fusion traps, which for some reason they're traps. I think it's a trap deck, but the fusions are traps. That's weird. I don't know. But it gets you into all of your traps. It gets you into all of your stuff. Even and if you already have your fusion traps, it gets you into whatever you need depending on the matchup. It's just really good, and you like seeing this in your deck. Even if you do have the fusion traps, seeing this in your opening hand is always good, just because it gets you an extra trap from deck. It gets you an extra fusion trap if you like want to bait one out or something. If you want to activate the domain first, then they activate Ash, then you activate Frenzy, and it's like great. So 3 of her for sure. Then I'm actually only playing 2 Diplos. So the reason I'm playing 2 Diplos is because opening him up in your starting hand is like, yeah, whatever. It's not the best. You only really use him for what's it called, domain. You still use them for domain, but I'm going to show you how many of those I'm playing. I think I'm only playing 2 though, so you don't really need him all that much. It just sends a trap from. I'll actually go over this effect. So if this card is no more special summon, you can send 1 Dinomorphia card from your deck to the graveyard, so you can send any of the stuff. But usually you're doing that with you're doing Theresia with your fusion traps anyway. And then if this card is destroyed by battle or a card effect, you can banish 1 trap from your graveyard and special summon 1 level 4. You have to banish the trap for Theresia as well. So it summons Theresia out from the graveyard and Theresia summons it out. Honestly, the send isn't always the best. It gets rid of cards that you don't want in your deck, or if you just want that extra battle protection, it gets you your battle protection. But honestly, I think 2 is fine. I hope we get more Dinomorphia like actual monsters soon, because just having the 2 main deck ones, and Diplos isn't really that great, so I just want more of him anyway. We're actually playing 2 non-Dinomorphia dinosaurs. We're playing 1 Soul Eating Oviraptor to basically set up for like this is it's good to open because it searches you the Miscellaneousaurus, and it also searches you any of your Dinomorphia stuff. But if you already have the fusion traps or fusion whatever, you just search Miscellaneousaurus, and it basically insulates you from your opponent's card effects during their and your turn. Because I'll explain what the cards do this right now. If the card is normal or special summoned, you can take 1 dinosaur monster from the deck and either add to your hand, send it to the graveyard, then target one. You can target 1 dinosaur monster on the field and destroy it, and then special summon 1 dino monster from your graveyard in defense position. Which you don't really use that effect. You usually use it to search this or the Dinomorphia monster. And then Miscellaneousaurus is during the main phase. As a quick effect, you can just discard this card from your hand to the graveyard during your main phase. Dinosaur monsters you control are unaffected by during the main phase, not your main phase. Are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. And yeah, and then while it's in the graveyard, you can just banish it and any number of dinosaur monsters to special summon a dinosaur monster with that level from your deck, which is great. Honestly, you could play Archosaur and search something with and search or you could search Baby Pteranodon and do whatever. But honestly, I like it's at one, so I like adding it to your hand and just insulating yourself from stuff. Then we're playing actually one Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Honestly, I might play more of this just because every monster card you play is a dinosaur, and this just helps going for game, especially since you can banish the Dinomorphia monsters. You can banish the Oviraptor, the Miscellaneousaurus, which you can search with Fossil Dig. And you can play more of this. I like one. I just do. I just like playing at one. It's like if you see it, you see it. But if you want to play more of this, I think you can, just because all of your traps send two dinosaur monsters to the grave. And if you don't, I think sometimes it's better to have that recursion. But this just helps push for game a lot of the time. And Ultimate Character Tyranno is one of the best boss monsters in the game. Just because I'll read you his effect. So cannot be normal summoned or set. Must first special summon from your hand by banishing two dinosaur monsters from your graveyard. Once per turn during either player's main phase, you can destroy one monster in your hand or field, and if you do, destroy all or change all face-up monsters your opponent controls to face-down defense position. And this card can attack every monster your opponent controls once each. And at the end of the damage step, if this card is attacked as a defense position monster, you can inflict 1,000 damage to your opponent, and if you do, destroy that defense position monster. So it's a really good boss monster. It's really good to see. And then we're playing 3 Ash Blossom. So Ash Blossom is a hand trap, if you don't know what that is. You can activate it from your hand to basically stop an effect. And Ash Blossom, which he stops, is adding a card from deck to hand, special summoning card from the deck, and sending card from deck to the graveyard. Now, this is really good, especially in this format, just because of the adventure stuff is a thing, just because the branded fusion is a thing, just because like there's a lot in the format that gets hit by Ash, and it just kills rogue decks, right? So it's just really versatile and really good for everything. I play 3. Just because it's really good. And although this is a trap deck, I still think that 3 Ash is really good in the deck. Now let's go on to the spell cards. So we're playing 2 Pot of Prosperity. We're playing Pot of Prosperity specifically because you really want to see your fusion traps. You really want to see them, or at least something that gets you your fusion traps. But usually you just want to see your fusion traps. You don't really use all of your extra deck. Mainly you're just using Rexstrum and the stuff to get to Rexstrum. So everything else is just like a little bit of bonus. So it's really good to be able to find that as soon as possible. In Prosperity, a lot of times you aren't drawing cards, not even a lot of times, you're never drawing cards off of this deck. It's usually just setting cards from deck or sending cards from deck with Othrasia and Diplos. So Pot of Prosperity is really good. You're never really pushing for game in one turn with this deck. It's usually just like slow your opponent down until like they can't play anymore. So 2 Pot of Prosperity. I only have 2. I would play 3 if I had 3, but I only have 2. So bam. Then we're playing 3 Fossil Dig. This searches any monster card in your deck except Ultimate Conductor Triano, and it's not once per turn. So if you have 2 of them, you can search Theresia, and then you can search Miscellaneousaurus, and you can insulate your Theresia from everything, which is really good. It's just great. It's just a good card, especially in any dinosaur deck. And it's just basically extra copies of Theresia if you need those extra copies. Now, this is a tech choice that I really like in the deck. Now, this is Lost World. So Lost World, what you can do is if you open it up, you can... I play 2 copies of Lost World. So what it does, first I'll go over what it does. Oh, Fossil Dig just searches trap cards. Searches dinosaur monsters, and Pot of Prosperity. Man, I always forget to explain cards because I know what the cards do. So you banish 3 or 6 cards from your extra deck, excavate that many, so reveal that many, and then choose 1 out of them to add to your hand. You can't draw cards for the rest of the turn, and all damage you do is halved for the rest of the turn. Then Lost World, that does is all monsters on the field lose 500 attack, except for dinosaur monsters. This comes up not quite a bit, but sometimes, and it's really funny when it does, because all your monsters, usually your Theresia is like 2,000, your Kentragina is 3,000, and your Rexstrum is 3,000. So it's like getting over that with the 500 deduction is pretty interesting. Then if a dinosaur monster is normal or special summoned, you can summon a token to your opponent's side of the field, which you do both during your turn and during your opponent's turn. So you can have 2 tokens. Can you have 2 tokens on the field? Yeah. So you can summon up to 2 tokens, they can use as link material, but at the same time, like a lot of decks have specific link requirements or specific like card requirements to be able to go into their stuff. A lot of decks right now are synchro decks or fusion decks, which you can't use tokens for. So it really clogs up their spaces. And the main decks in the format right now, actually I haven't looked at the YCS results, but what I think, like I'm gonna go off what I think is gonna be the big thing. I heard Mystic Mine was a thing, which is like crazy. But again, this gives monsters to your Mystic Mine players. So hey, but I think Despia is still gonna be Plunder Patrol Adventure. I heard Therion Punk was really good, and for Therion Punk, they yeah, they do use some link stuff, but now that Rodon Hulk is gone, they need those spaces. Most of the time, they're going into synchro monsters, right? So clogging up two spaces is actually quite a hindrance sometimes. Anyway, keep going. What this card does, and then while there is a token on the field, so a normal monster on the field, which is token, it cannot be your opponent cannot target cards on the field with card effects. So why is this important? It's because that way, if you activate this first, you can normal summon you can normal summon your whatever, and then say they, even if they imperm or ash, like you activate this effect, and then next turn they can't imperm, they can't chalice, they can't do anything that targets to not only your cards on the field but their cards on the field. So let's say if they're playing Fogblade or something, if they're playing Phantom Knights, then they can't do it on their cards to sort of like chain block a droplet or something if they're playing Scythe still for some reason. I don't see why they would, but maybe. But anyway, the new Wonder Magician Scythe activation thing. I don't know why they didn't just ban Scythe. But anyway, it stops your opponent from targeting things, which actually matters quite a bit. And you can protect your tokens by destroying cards in your deck, which is just kind of silly. So, two Lost Worlds. I think it's actually a really good card in the deck, but that's just me. If you disagree, that's fine. But that's what I think. Then 3 Dinomorphia Frenzy. Now, we're only playing 2 Domain, just because getting Kentragina out is like fine, but getting Rexstrom out is insane. So what does this card do? During your opponent's main phase, pay half your life points, fusion summon one Dinomorphia monster from your extra deck, using only 1 monster from your deck and 1 monster from your extra deck as fusion materials. When your opponent activates a card or effect, when your life points are 2,000 less, you can banish this card from your graveyard, take no effect damage. So all of the Dinomorphia traps have a thing where if they're counter traps, they have the effect to make battle damage 0, and if they're normal traps, they have the effect to make effect damage 0, which honestly they should have made it the other way. They should have made the fusion spells negate battle damage, but I see why that would be kind of good. So but anyway, this is just a fusion card. It's the way to get out Rexstrom from your extra deck with 1 card, which is really great. It gets monsters into your graveyard, which is amazing. The only ones that you can actually use are the ones that you send from the main deck, because the extra deck monsters weren't summoned properly, so you can't resummon them. But it's still really good. I think this is definitely a 3 of, just because Rexstrom is such a powerful card. It's mainly the way you're going to win games now. Before it was just stalling your opponent out, but now definitely this is the way to go. Dinomorphia Domain. I still play this card, and I still play it at 2. I don't play it at 3 anymore because it isn't as important to open as it is Frenzy, and you can still search it with Kentragina, so I think it's like fine. But this is just the same as it's literally the same as Frenzy, except you use 2 monsters from your main deck, so you can't summon Rexstrom from it by it, because Rexstrom uses a fusion monster. But you can still summon Kentragina, which is still good, because Kentragina does some cool stuff, and it sends 2 monsters from your main deck, so it gets your resource loop started. And I'll explain. The resource loop is like all of your monsters have effects that when they're destroyed by card effect or battle, which all of your trap cards do when they activate their effects, except for some of them. Some of them don't, but a lot of them have effects where they do their effect and then they destroy 1 card on your field, 1 Dinomorphia monster, which then triggers their effect to summon from graveyard, which then triggers their effect to do stuff, and it's just a really good resource loop. It gets you a lot of advantage, and yeah, that's why I still play Dinomorphia Domain. Not that it's a bad card. It's a good fusion spell. It's like it's a trap. It's weird that they're trap cards, man. But yeah, Dinomorphia. I play 2 specifically because I think Frenzy's a lot better and it's not really as necessary, but it's still really good, so you want to see it, and it's searchable, so why? Then Dinomorphia Alert. So this is one of the best cards in your deck. Now I've heard, I've actually talked to one other Dinomorphia player, and they say that they only want to play one because it's searchable and they never want to open it. But I don't see why, because this card is just really good. So pay half your life points, add special summon up to 2 Dinomorphia monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal 8, which is uh, you can summon your fusion monsters too. Just saying. And then for the rest of the turn, you can't declare an attack with them this turn, but usually you're activating to your opponent's end phase, so it doesn't matter. And you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Dinomorphia monsters. So if you usually what you're going to do is you're going to use this at the end phase, activate their effects, and then use them for Xyz material to go into Logia or Dolka or anything else really. But I play 2 of this because it's searchable, and opening 2 in your hand kind of sucks. But it's amazing. It's an amazing card. I think it's one of the best ones. I think this should have gotten a super rare because it would look so cool. Look at this art. It's awesome. I like the Rizia a lot. She's pretty. But it's a really good card. If you want to play 3, I wouldn't mind playing 3. I just don't want to see 2 in the opening hand. And again, it's searchable. Same thing with any of these traps. That's why that's why I play most of them at 2, except for the fusion ones, or even one of the fusion ones. But yeah. That's why. Really good card. I recommend playing at least 2 of it. Then Brute. I play 2 of Brute. What this does is pay half your life points, destroy 1 Dinomorphia monster you control, and 1 card your opponent controls. It doesn't target. When your opponent activates a card effect, where you control 2 life points or less, banish this card. And you don't take effect damage. This one has the same one. I just didn't read it because it's whatever. But non-targeting destruction, pretty good. There's a reason why DP is kind of good, and it's that in a spell card, which then triggers your cards to get you maybe a Theresia back and get your advantage going, which is really good. I play 2 of it. Again, it's searchable. It's this one, seeing 2 of it isn't the worst because you can use it more. No, you can't use it once per turn. It's not the worst. But it's not good. And seeing any of these 2 is 2 in your hand isn't the best, but it's still okay. Sonic, I think, is the best. One of the best trap cards. It's pretty much Judgment. Not pretty much Judgment. It's not Judgment. It's a spell and trap card negate, but that is really what gets you in this deck. So when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, will you control Dinomorphia monster? Pay half your life points, negate the activation. If you do, destroy that card, then destroy 1 Dinomorphia monster you control. During the damage calculation, while your life points are 2,000 less, you'll take battle damage. You can banish this card from the graveyard, take no battle damage. It's good. Now you can use each of these effects once per turn. So Sonic is really good because it gets you advantage and it stops cards like Dark Ruler no more. It starts droplets. A lot of people aren't sending traps for droplets. A lot of people aren't expecting you to have some out to Dark Ruler, right? Because barely anyone does. But this is your main. I might play 3 of Sonic. I don't know, but I think Ferret Flames is just a little bit better, so I'd rather play 3 of that. I only have 1 right now, so I'm using proxies, but yeah. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. I'm actually playing 1 Dinomorphia shell because this actually comes up sometimes. So let's go over what it does. At the start of the opponent's battle phase, pay half your life points, special summon 1 Dinomorphia token or 0 attack and 3,000 defense, which is a lot of defense. And if you do, for the rest of the turn, while you control a token, in your monster zone, your opponent cannot target other monsters for attacks except this one. During damage calculation, where your opponent's life points are 2,000 less, you can manage this card and negate battle damage. Now, this gives you a Dinomorphia monster to destroy for one of your trap cards. So you could actually just summon the token, make it so your opponent can't attack. And with Rexstrom, which lowers what's it called, attack points, a lot of the time, or most of the time, it's lowering attack points. It's just really good, and it gives you that material to destroy off of one of your traps. So if you have like basically a hand of all traps and you have Shell, you can activate Shell during their battle phase. They most likely won't be able to get over it. Then main phase 2, you activate Brute. Then pop a card they control, because they're going to be able to get over the Shell with like monster effects or whatever. So they chain something to get rid of it, chain Brute, and then destroy one of their cards. It's really good. I only play it at 1 because it's not the best, but it is still the battle damage reduction, and it's something, you know. It's I think it comes up sometimes. It has come up sometimes for me. Now let's go into our floodgates. So we're playing 3 anti-spell fragrance. Anti-spell fragrance is actually crazy, this format. So if you I don't think the Mystic Mind deck is going to become all popular because the only real reason that was good is because it was good against the meta and no one was ready for it. It was like a basically game one win against a Despia, which was like everyone thought was going to be the best deck, which I still think it is the best deck. But it stops etel. Actually, does it stop? No, etel is a quick play. So it stops a lot of stuff. It stops a lot of Sword Soul extension. It stops a lot of just good cards from going off their turn one. And by the time you're done with your turn one, you're already gone your life points to a low enough point where a Rexstrom is basically at an FTK, unless they draw some effect negation or something. But at that time, if you have Lost World, again, they can't imperm, right? They can't affect Veiler. They can't do any of those stuff. So unless it's Dark Ruler or droplets, you got basically nothing. So this is just to buy you time to get your life points low enough and to get all of your cards on the field, right? So three of this, just because of how good it is in the meta, it stops branded just because they can't activate their fusion spells in their turn, which is like they can activate opening and get their fusion spell, yeah, great, but this isn't negating the activation or anything anything, so it isn't affected by Lost. For the Plunder Patrol, they can't activate their extension spell. They can't activate their field spell. They can't activate a lot. They can still go for their monster effects, but at that point, the card is already on the field, right? They have to spend resources to get rid of it, and a lot of people are going to be maining spawn trap card removal now, I think, in main events, but not for locals and whatever. Then we're playing 2 Solemn Judgment because Solemn Judgment protects all your cards. If they have a card that does negate your monster effects, and you go, hey, no. So 2 Judgment. You can play 3 of this and take something out. I just like the Floodgates more. Oh, I forgot to mention what anti-spell does. So anti-spell is both players can must set spell and trap cards before activating them, and they cannot activate them until their next turn after setting them. So one full turn cycle before you can activate spell cards, which is good. Then 2 Solemn Judgment. Solemn Judgment, what it does is if a monster would be summoned or a spell trap card is activated, pay half your life points, negate the normal of the summon or negate the effect, and it's whatever. And it's basically a Dinomorphia card because all of your cards make you pay half your life points. So hey, then Dimensional Barrier. Dimensional Barrier is insane. It's Oh my gosh, and the fact that that can main deck because of the trap deck. Dimensional Barrier, if you're playing a trap deck and you're not playing this, you're doing something wrong because it's good against, like I said in my Dark Magician deck profile, if you guys saw that one, it's good against Fusion decks, which is Branded Despia. It's good against Synchro decks, which is Sword Soul. It's good against, what's it called? What's it called? It's good against ritual decks, which is Libromancer. It's ritual on this card because why not, right? It's good against Xyz decks, which is just a lot of if they have a way to get to Zeus, you can just go hey, no. You can just do that. It's just such a versatile card. What it does is you can declare one monster card type: Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, or Pendulum for some reason. And for the rest of the turn, neither player can special summon monsters of the declared type. Also negate the effects of all monsters of that type on the field. So even if you're going in Branded Despia, if your opponent has a way to get over Rexstrom, negate his effects or whatever, say they open the Dark Ruler or the Droplet, then yeah, you could just use this as a backup. This is basically Rexstrom just as a trap card. So yeah. Then I only have 1 copy of Ferret Flame, so I'm using 2 Ghost Ogres as proxies. But this is a really good card in this deck because I'll read what it does and you'll see why. So if the combined attack of all face-up monsters your opponent controls is higher than your life points, make your opponent shuffle monsters they control into the deck of their choice so that it becomes the combined attack of the remaining monsters control becomes less than or equal to your life points. Now, why is this good in this deck? Because every card you have halves your flipping life points. So all the fusion cards, their effects have your life points. All the trap cards have your life points. The big gimmick of this deck is getting your life points low. And Ferret Flames is amazing because it's non-targeting shuffle back removal. So it's just amazing. I wish I could get 2 more copies of this card, but I can't. I just can't find any locally, and I don't have enough money to order it right now. So 2 Ghost Ogres for now, 1 Ferret Flames. I would play 3. I definitely play 3. These are definitely just 2 more Ferret Flames if you're actually building the deck. But for now, I'm just proxying it. Ferret Flames is just insane in this deck. You definitely play 3. Your life points are always going to be at least 2,000 or lower, and most like monsters that your opponent's going to summon are higher than 2,000 attack. So yeah, they can shuffle, they can keep their weenies, but most of the time it's like, yeah, okay, keep your weenies, I don't care, I want to get rid of the big monsters with effects. So anyway, that's the main deck. Now let's go into the extra deck. Now Rexstrom, this is the big player of the deck. This is why the deck is actually decent now. What Rexstrom does. So Rexstrom is, you can fusion summon him using Dinomorphia Fusion Monster and 1 Dinomorphia Monster. That's why Frenzy works with this card. Then your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life points. Now again, this is why the same reason that Ferret Flames is so good in this deck, and this is why this card is so silly in this deck. It's because most of the time your life points are 2,000 or lower, and a lot of the times they're lower. A lot of times you're getting to like 1,500, especially in later games, and you want to do whatever you can to lower your life points. And so hand traps still have 0 attack, but every other monster usually has at least 500 or 800 attacks. So they can activate their small ones, but every monster that does anything in Yu-Gi-Oh, anything remotely good, has higher than 1,000 attack. So, and what this does, another effect that this has, I wasn't even done reading the card. So you can only use each of the following effects of Dinomorphia Rexstrom once per turn. Quick effect, you can pay half your life points of the attack of all monsters your opponent currently controls become equal to your life points. So it makes it so that it's like basically a blanket field negate. So it's Dark Ruler no more on legs. And then if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 level 6 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. So if you already have the Kentragina in rotation, it summons Kentragina, which is really good. And it's really easy to get Kentragina in rotation. So anyway, Rexstrom, why is it good in the deck? Why is it so good in the deck? Because most of the time your opponent can't activate monsters that do anything. Like, there's very little monsters that have like good effects that do something to your opponent that have less than 2,000 life points. And even if they get to a point where they summon a monster and like make its attack lower or whatever, you can just say, no, I want your attack to be my life points. And a lot of the times this isn't just a negate effect, it's a battle trick. Because your opponent can, they can't activate their effects, but if they get a big monster on the field and can beat over Rexstrom, it can beat over your other Dinomorphia monsters, it's like, yeah, okay, what do I do? But since this halves your attack a lot of the time, you can just half your life points, not attack, half your life points most of the time. You can get your life points to like 1,000 or 500, and then just make your opponent's attack 1,000 or 500, and it's protection for it fixes one of the problems that the deck has, which is like a lot of things can just beat over them. It has a stable 3,000 attack like stat, so it's just really good. I think it's an amazing card, and when I saw it come out, I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. Then we're playing 3 Kentragina because that way you can use your extra frenzies, and Kentragina is just a good card. So what this card does is it loses attack equal to your life points, so most of the time it gets up being 2,000 attack. Then you can activate each of the following effects of Dinomorphia Kentragina once per turn. During the main phase, a quick effect, you can pay half your life points and manage 2 Dinomorphia monsters. Once you can pay half your life points and then banish 1 Dinomorphia normal trap from your graveyard, and this effect becomes that effect. While it's for that instance of the effect. And then if it's destroyed, you can special summon 1 level 4 lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard. So this is just good for recurring your trap cards, right? If you already have Rexstrom on the field, then you get this out. And it's just a really good card. It's just really good. And you can summon it off Rexstrom if Rexstrom is destroyed, which is really good. A 3 of her, just because you can banish her off Prosperity, and it doesn't really matter. And if you having 3 of her is never a bad thing, because for the domain and for the frenzy, you can use on field and in deck, so it's never really not live. But yeah, sometimes it isn't, but 3 Kentrigina is really good. Same reason 3 Rexstrom is good. You just want to be able to get as many of them out as possible. Then one of this thing, I'm not even going to go over this effect because this you just have in here to send out Frenzy for the first instance of Frenzy. Get Rexstrom out, send a Kentrigina to grave. This doesn't even matter. I'm not going to go over it. That's why it's here. Then one Abyss Dweller. So what Abyss Dweller does is when this card has material attached, it's that was originally water, so that's not in this deck. Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card. Your opponent cannot activate any card effects in their graveyard for this turn. So that's a really good card against a lot of cards. Sword Soul is really weak against Dweller. Well, not really weak, it's just weak against Dweller. Especially because a big part of how they get to their combo now is the Tenyi stuff, which all extend from the graveyard, all have their effects in the graveyard. It's just really good. That's why I play the Abyss Dweller, and it's good against Rogue too. A lot of Rogue decks have stuff that activate in the graveyard. Just as principle, you know. Then we have 1 Time Thief Redoer because it's a level 4, because it's good. So what this card does, once per turn during your standby phase, you can attach the top card of your opponent's deck to this card as material, and you can detach up to 3 different types of this material from this monster, and then it gains attacks depending on what. 1 monster card, banish this card until the end phase. 1 spell card, you can draw 1 card, and then 1 trap card. Place 1 face-up card your opponent controls on the top of their deck. Non-targeting. So this is really good because it just takes cards from your opponent. It makes it so like they can't use them, and it just keeps coming back. It's a really annoying card to deal with, and it has 2400 attack, which is pretty sizable. I just have that there because I don't know. I think it's one of the best rank 4s, and I didn't know what else to play. So that's a flex spot if you want to change that for anything. But I think the rest of this is like pretty like reasonable. Then we're playing 2 Evil Sword Logia. So what this is literally Solemn Judgment on legs. So during either player's turn, when a monster would be normal summoned or special summoned, so it's better than Judgment. It's not better than Judgment. This is but it's like Judgment. Or a spell track card is activated, you can detach 2 Xyz materials from this card, then negate the summon or activation if you do destroy that card. So it's basically Solemn Judgment on legs. If you're in late game and your opponent has very little resources, you just summon Logia, and it's like, yeah, what do you do now? And it's just really cool. It's a really good card. I play this at 2 because you can go into multiple Xyz in a game because every one of your things recurs, because Alert is a card. Everything is recurring, and you can just summon them from hand. You have more level 4s. It's just a really good card. Then 2 Dolka. Dolka is the monster effect negate counterpart to Logia. So when a monster effect is activated, not once per chain, you can detach 1 material from this card and negate the activation if you do destroy that monster. This is not once per turn, so it's just good. You play 2. I play 2 of these because it's just really good. It's going first if you have some way to get out 2 monsters on the field. It's just good to go into Dolka. Usually you can't, but usually you can after turn 2. So like you have your Rexstrom and everything, and you have like the option to go into Dolka. Usually I'll go into a Logia, especially because Rexstrom is a card now. They won't be able to activate many monster effects, so Logia, just having that effect to protect yourself from the spell cards, is just really big. Then we have the Zeus package. So we have 1 Downwind Magician. I won't go over this effect because basically you can just stack it over an Xyz monster, the level 5 or lower Xyz monster, which gives you an extra material for Zeus. And then Zeus, I will go over his effect because maybe you don't know. Once per turn, if an Xyz monster is battled this turn, you can also Xyz summon. Well, this guy just names the card by using 1 Xyz monster you control as material and transfer its material to this card. And as a quick effect, not once per chain, you can detach 2 materials from this card, send all other cards on the field to the graveyard, and once per turn, if another card you control is destroyed by battle or opponent's card effect, you can detach 1 card from your hand, deck, or extra deck to this as material. So it's good. It's a good card. It's just really good utility, especially if you use your Logia. You can attack with it, go into Downward, go into Zeus, and you have another form interruption, right? Usually you don't want to use the Zeus unless it's your last resort, because just all your other cards are much more important, much better. But I still think Zeus is especially for a deck that uses so many Xyz, I think it's just key to have. But anyway, that was the deck profile. Guys, I have a few more decks to do in deck profiles, but until then, I still have to upload the gameplay of Dark Magician and apparently now this. But if you have anything else you want to see, just like strategies with any of these decks, strategies against certain decks, how to play against certain decks, I could definitely upload some of that. Just really, just anything you want to see, just let me know, and I'll make it happen. And yeah. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, maybe and subscribe, and if you want, ring the notification bell for more videos. I'll see you guys later. I hope you have a great day.